What's going on YouTube? In this video, I am going to go through my top three stock picks for this week. These are swing trade picks that I find interest in, and I will share them with you guys. I have others beyond these top three, but these three are my top three watches that I have going on. But first, let's take a look at last week's top three picks that we had. Last week's picks, first one we had was Granger, GWW. If you would go back, I'll link the video to last week's top three picks right now. My plan was on this one was I kind of missed the entry. I wanted to get in more at like 703, but I ended up getting in like 710 range, something like that. Monday morning I got in somewhere around that range. I don't remember. My stop loss is down here at about 677, and I'm looking for a potential double top. Once we hit the top of this channel again, I'm going to move my stop loss up to break even and then get in or exit. Look for an exit around the $800 range, roughly. Wherever this thing looks like it might be beginning to roll over again. But for now, that is the plan. Pick number three from last week was Enphase. Enphase kind of did exactly what I thought it might do, and it hit a bottom here at about $111 per share and bounced higher. However, it touched this trend line that we have drawn in here, this very, very steep trend line. It touched it and retraced back off of it. So that trend line is still in play and still being a pain in the butt. So currently, like I said last week, I'm in at this at like $113 per share. My stop loss is down below. I think I got it set at like 110. And I'm really looking for this thing to finally find its legs and get back up to like 150 bucks per share. I mean, it's still $30 away, but on the stock chart, it looks like it's just a couple days worth of trading away. So Enphase still in it, still looking good. And we'll see what happens this week. See if we can get some upward price movement on this. If bonds start pulling back, then I think we might see some price action to the upside on Enphase, and we'll have to wait and see if that happens. Pick number three, which we never got an entry on, and thank goodness we didn't, because I was looking for an entry around 13.20 per share. Once it got above these two candles, I was looking for maybe a potential pop up higher. It looked like this was a pivotal point. It was getting oversold on multiple reasons, and we were starting to see some volume come into play. However, the war occurred that weekend. So if it wasn't for that, maybe this actually would be pointing a little bit higher. But since the war popped into place and is now another factor to these airlines of just getting hammered, it continued lower. So this one for me, no entry, stayed away from, gonna stay away from. It's sitting on support right now, but I'm a little concerned it might continue a little bit lower. I could see it coming down to about 10.50 roughly per share. And if it does, I think that might be a great buying opportunity. I mean, right now is even a pretty good buying opportunity for a long-term hold, I believe. But if we're gonna swing trade or day trade this, I don't think there's no reason to day trade it. There's like no momentum in it unless you're gonna short it. Even though it's kind of hard to short when it's this far down. But pick number one for this upcoming week is Delta Airlines. Currently, Delta doesn't have earnings until next year. It reported earnings this most recent week. I believe it was on Thursday. So what we're looking for on Delta here is it to hold this trend line. See, here's the difficult part about this one. Pretty much every two of these three picks that I have is kind of like catching a falling knife almost, except they're at pivotal points, or at least what you would consider pretty important trend line ranges that you would think would potentially hold, and you might see a little bit of a reversal in the near future on some of these. So we want to try and catch the very bottom. At least that's what my goal is trying to catch the very bottom, or at least close to it, with another stop loss a little bit below, and then hopefully it resumes, or at least makes a bounce up higher, just for, just play the bounce up and then probably get out. But what I'm kind of looking for in this one is I want to see this thing kind of hold. I want to see it struggle at this like $34 range here. Maybe it can come down a little bit more, $33, $34 range. I want to see it struggle. If it can struggle and can't quite make its way lower, I'll probably look for an entry for a potential bounce up to like 39, 40-ish dollars per share there. If it gets up to like 36, $37, I'll probably move my stop up to break even. This one's a little bit tough to play. I think if you're gonna buy this for a long-term hold, though, I think now might not be too bad of an area to pick up some shares for sure. But for a day trade for me or swing trade for me, that's kind of what I'm looking for. I'm looking for this thing to make one little push lower here, and then I think I'm gonna grab it and see if this thing doesn't want to decide to start moving higher. So that's it on Delta Airlines as pick number one. Pick number two that I have is Walgreens. And Walgreens also reported their earnings on last week, Thursday. Walgreens is somewhat similar, technically speaking, to Delta here. We're sitting on two areas of trendline support. We're at the bottom of this range between in this channel. We also are in a long term, what I would say a very strong, well, I wouldn't say very strong, but a pretty solid support range. We'll move over to the monthly chart real quick, but you can see in this range of like 17 to $22 per share, 22 being the top of the range. It actually kind of hit that last week or the week before, probably. Um, and to me, it looks like this could be a good area for where this stock could make its way back up higher because last week when our earnings came out, it put in a pretty big, nice green candle with a lot of volume behind it. And now maybe this is a momentum changer where Walgreens decides to maybe start at least recovering somewhat. So what I would look for here is I like this candle. It would have been a great entry at like 22.50 per share and potentially ride this thing back up to 28-ish dollars per share. So this one's probably going to be a little bit of a slow mover, but with how beaten down it is and how oversold it is, you can also see our MACD is starting to curl up higher, which is another positive to this trade. So overall, I really like this one. I'm looking for an entry. I think I might get in, depending on where this opens up Monday morning. I'll probably get in around 23-ish dollars per share. Maybe this thing pulls back just a smidge more, and then I'll put my stop loss at about the lows, maybe at $20.50 per share. Because if it breaks here, it's probably going down to at least about 17.50 per share would be my guess. And if it does get down to there, I think that's a great place to start picking up some shares for a long-term position. And even though right now might be the same deal, pick up some shares for a long-term position if you believe in this company, right? You got to make sure you understand and believe in the company too. So that's what I'm looking for. If it does, if I get in, stop loss here, break even price, $28 per share, probably an exit. Maybe mid 30s would be my exit range. I would believe on this one here. Pick number three is John Deere, ticker symbol DE. Earnings for this company is not until middle or close to the end of December, so we got a little over a month, 40-ish days on that. So should be good on that. Won't have to deal with any earnings if we're in the trade. What I'm seeing here on this one, we'll go over the monthly chart again. Well, monthly chart doesn't really show us much there. So what we're seeing here is we're in this very wide channel, starting to get more narrow here, less volatile. But what we're doing is we're making higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, higher highs. These higher highs are kind of nominal. Made a double top basically there, but still squeaked by a little bit of a higher high. Same thing here. It's still squeaked by just a little bit. So it's still technically making higher highs, but so we're seeing is a little bit of a wedge pattern here. What I think could happen on this one is we get in right about where it's sitting now, about 380 to $390 range. Stop loss about 370 for a trade back up to about $450. Now, the concern on this one is kind of how it reacted with the markets a little bit. So you can kind of see once I switch over the next chart here, we can see that DE was somewhat similar to how the markets were. So that's a little, I wouldn't say concerning, but might be a little bit of a little more of a struggle for this one to get up higher if the markets can't decide to go higher this week, which, who knows what the markets are going to do. There's so much uncertainty right now. Again, even now that they include the war, you got the war going, the Israel war, Palestinian war going on, and it's like, man, like just so much. There's just so many factors going on. You got the strike. I don't know if the strike's been resolved yet, and just there's so many unknowns right now, and not like you ever know, but it's even more unknown than it has been. And then you just got the CPI that came in hotter than expected. And it's like, man, it's like, what do you make of this right now? So it's a little tough. But if you look at it in the long term, typically good name stocks usually go higher, trend higher, not lower. So if you look at this in the bigger scheme of things, the stock market will eventually resume its way back up higher, along with some well-named or well-positioned companies that are financially secure and stable and have good balance sheets. So that's my top three picks for this upcoming trading week. If the market decides to roll over this week and head lower, it's going to be a bit difficult to make any long swing trades work. But that's it for my top three picks for this week. Found value in this video. If this value helps you out at all, drop a like and subscribe and leave a comment letting me know that you like seeing my top three picks, and we can continue doing those in the future.